the annual Jones Family Scrabble tournament has begun.
Yes.
Yes. That's all she's got to say about that.
No, sorry, I was completely distracted.
Okay, we have some cows in the way. I'm going to have to just go through the middle.
I heard the bin lorry and I just suddenly thought, I looked
No
down
one's
there.
interested in your bin announcements. I'm really sorry about
and I'm
this.
like, the bin's...
If you're looking for picture-perfect postcard vistas, it normally doesn't get much better than this unless there's a massive lorry driving past. So we'll do that again.
You ever feel like you're being stared at? That was long underwear, wasn't it, Long Johns?
Yeah.
Of course, I've not been running my underwear.
I hope you did have underwear on.
Well, I did. This is all going wrong. Really? Oh. And then one goes nuts. Welcome, everybody, to the Bakery Bears video show featuring a shiny brand new walk in the Dales.
Oh, it's really nice.
Now, we're going to Wensleydale.
Wensleydale, I love a bit of Wensleydale cheese.
Me too. Look,
It's delicious.
we sort of went to Wensleydale in season 1, sort of, but we didn't really because we were actually in one of the dales off Wensleydale, which is known as Coverdale.
Yeah.
So when we walked down...
They also make nice cheese.
I saw some yesterday.
I wonder why it's such good cheese in the Dales.
Well, it
Must
all
be the
stems...
cows, mustn't it? Is it?
No.
Oh, Monks. Is it Monks?
Yeah, that's
that used to
exactly
make
right.
cheese?
Yes. Jervo Abbey, that's where it all stems from.
Yeah.
Amazing. It's a wonderful walk, and I'll tell you why. There's lots of great things to see, but we're going to a place where someone very special went for their honeymoon.
Not us.
No. Although
we said we would have gone there.
it would have been perfect for us. Yes,
Yeah.
we're going to the place where James Herriot, of course, the real name is Alf White, went for his honeymoon in 1941.
Amazing. 1941.
I know.
So that's during the war.
I know.
That must have been... I mean, that's amazing to, actually get away on a honeymoon during the war.
I know.
But also it must have felt just like such a really nice relief from...
Yeah.
Because it's so beautiful where you'll see. I mean, it's such a lovely little place.
And we're going to go for a walk up a path which I can guarantee you, James, Alf, and his wife definitely will have gone for a walk.
Yeah.
Because they were, of course, very outdoorsy people.
Was she actually called Helen? No.
No, she won't have been.
Because that was James Herriot's wife, wasn't it?
I did know what she was called, but I just can't remember.
Right.
It's shocking. I'm thrilled to tell you, as you'll see later on in the show, that the English summer has finally arrived.
Oh, it's been lovely. And going forward, like next week, it's like sort of maximum of 18. It's just perfect. And in the morning, it's nice and cool.
It is.
It's very sunny at the minute, but it's not super hot.
No.
And, so that's just great.
I've been running in my long johns.
Long johns.
In my long tights.
Yeah.
Because it really has been that cold. I've got this test and it works like an absolute... It's perfect. This
Stick
thing
your
that I
hand
do.
out the window.
That's exactly what I do. I stick my hand out the window and I wave it backwards and forwards.
You don't need weather apps. You just need your hand.
Well, it's true. Do you know what? I think we've become...
Weather apps are not entirely reliable.
They're utter garbage.
Well, it depends which one you use. You always...
No, they're all garbage.
I find the Met Office one is better than you use the BBC one, which is I find to be absolute rubbish.
The thing is,
but
though,
the Met
it
Office
says...
one seems to be
It still
better.
says on there, information supplied by the Met Office.
Well, they're very different, though. When you look at the BBC, it's very different to the Met Office one.
I remember the days.
We never had really any of this, did we?
It just
days
creates...
gone by. You just look outside, and if it looks like a decent day, then get yourself out there.
That's exactly right. And also, I think it creates a level of anxiety. Because you're we're going for a picnic. Oh.
Yeah, it absolutely
Whereas before,
does, 'cause that's what I do.
Before you would just look out.
I know.
And you'd just go. And if it rained, you'd go, well.
If it rains, it rains, We're English, we usually take raincoats regardless. And
actually, it's quite fun being set out for a picnic and then the rain starting and you're then rushing into the car.
Well, I'm not sure about that.
Of course it is. I think it creates memories. Weather... It means that it turns a day which, because we've all been on a lovely sunny picnic where everything's gone perfectly. The ones you remember are the ones which start out perfect and then end up...
Starts tipping it down and there's suddenly a thunderstorm, or, you've got to run for the hills.
There's nothing better, I think, than being caught in the rain.
Well... It depends, doesn't it, on the circumstances. As a bloke, getting your hair wet is not a big thing, but for me, if I got my hair wet, I'd just turn into this massive frizz ball. So,
Reminiscent of Monica in Friends.
It does go a bit like that.
Where they go to Hawaii. Is it Hawaii they go to for Ross's presentation?
Somewhere like that, yeah.
It's hilarious.
Yeah. The hair's brilliant, isn't it? The humidity. That's what my hair does in the humidity. I think because I've got fine hair, I think when you've got fine hair, it just goes like a big bush, doesn't it?
And as it's summer, that means the annual Jones Family Scrabble tournament has begun. Now, it's extremely tense. We play quite regularly.
Yeah, we do.
Yes, and, we've all got our chosen approaches. I normally come last. But I do have one skill in Scrabble.
Yeah.
Yeah, because everyone hates, don't they? You're playing Scrabble. Or if you're playing cards. Or if you're doing anything where it gets to the person's turn and 5 hours later you're still waiting for them to decide what to do. I do think there are certain games which are frustrating in that you do end up sitting around waiting an awful lot for other people to do stuff.
Yeah, but there's a balance, isn't there?
Yeah, well, what I do is I get my word up as fast as possible.
It drives me and Bryony insane. Bryony always does the scoring. She always likes to do the scoring. And she won't have written down the last score, and he will have already put his word down and shouted out to her another score. And she's like, what? And then you've got to think again before you've even, put your letters on your thing.
I normally don't even turn the board to face me.
And then because he goes really fast, you're like, I've got to go really fast.
Yeah.
And then, but when you take a few minutes, rearranging your thing, thinking of a really good word or what, I then feel real pressure because I'm like, you usually follow me, don't you?
It's a good tactic, isn't it?
I can see him waiting to put that word down.
Do you see how it's a good tactic? It's a good tactic that works so well.
Drives me crazy.
As you already know, I always come last.
You don't. You have won once, I think.
There was that one time when you did win. We used to play it when Brian was a baby.
Me and you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
How fun was that?
Yeah.
Those were the days.
Yeah.
Now, we don't mention the Yahtzee tournament of 2016, I think it was.
When was it? 2016?
Yeah, because I got in one game. Well, it was definitely 4 Yahtzees. I mean, honestly, my score...
I'm sorry, it's a bit boring, isn't it? Just throwing a dice.
Bryony Kay had scored 200, and I had 650.
Well, we were just like, there's just no point playing this. And, we never used the... It makes a really annoying noise in that cup when you put the dice in the shape.
The old-fashioned set was really good because...
Didn't it have a clicky thing? No, what's that game?
No, that's a different game where it's in the middle. Yeah, I remember that game. You had to move counters around that stuck in plastic holes. I can't remember. Anyway, the old-fashioned Yahtzee that I used to play on holiday when I was growing up with my brothers and my mum and dad, that had a black cup, and on the inside of it
had felt,
like on a snooker table.
Yeah, so it didn't make that a noise. Yeah, because it's all about dice, isn't it? So that's all you hear. Yeah. I don't know. I just find it boring. It's just a game of chance, really, isn't it?
I think there is skill in Yahtzee.
Oh well, there's more skill in Scrabble and more. You've got to think. And we never play Monopoly. We played Monopoly once, and the game never ended. It was like. We left the board on the table, didn't we, and kept coming back to it. And Bryony's like, is this not over yet?
Yeah, I know.
We've never played it since. It just went on too long.
Yeah. Neil, the spider bite has successfully disappeared.
Thank goodness.
But the turn in the weather has led to an influx of spiders in the house.
We have seen quite a lot of spiders, haven't we, in the house?
I lifted up my pillow the other night.
And there was a spider.
And there was a spider there. But worst of all... The other morning is about 6:20, and you were downstairs having a cup of tea. You just brought me one upstairs. Bryony was reading in a room, and I heard this pitter. Well, it's hardly a pitter patter. The thud.
There's a long time since Bryony pitter pattered.
The thud of teenage footsteps coming across the landing into the bedroom, she springs. There's a giant spider on my bed. I'm thinking, it's not going to be a giant spider. This is going to be...
Was it really big?
It was huge. It was ginormous. I mean, just unbelievable. And I was so proud of her, to be honest, because
she
that would have...
like spiders at all.
The worst bit of all was it was like right next to her.
Gosh.
Normally when you see one, I mean, to be fair, this one that I saw, I think it was a day or two later, that it was on my pillow.
Yeah.
So it's as if they're going for the upper regions.
Strange, isn't it?
Well, it's when it gets cold. It normally happens in September. And I've got to say, the last couple of mornings, I'm not going to tempt fate because I'm sure it will all turn around. But the last couple of mornings...
It's been quite cool. It's been like below 10 degrees.
And there's been that, you know, that smell of September.
Yeah.
And it's been really weird.
I'm happy with having a smell of September in the air.
Neil, look, I need to just pause for a second and talk about some boring stuff.
Oh.
And I promise I'll keep it short.
Right.
Because I've been on ad watch since episode 175. In episode 175, we told you that YouTube have changed their policies and it's not good what they've done. They've basically taken ownership of anything that you post on YouTube, so they can do what they like with it. We are so against ads, we can't even begin to tell you. And when we started Baker Bear Productions back in 2015, one of its cornerstone promises was we would never have ads on our shows. Now, unfortunately, YouTube now have taken that decision away from us, and I saw for the first time this morning an ad.
Right.
And I just wanted to reiterate to you...
That's so depressing for us, honestly.
We have not turned these ads on.
No.
We would never turn on ads.
No.
And this is the whole reason why we have moved all of our... We produce, as I'm sure... Well, all you patrons will know, we produce a huge amount of content that goes out exclusively to our Baker Bear patrons, from tutorials to Knitty You to my garment knitting show
Advent calendar
coming later on in the year. There's tons and tons of content that we have been sharing on YouTube, but that stopped in May because that's when YouTube brought out this new policy. So we now use Vimeo, which means as a Bakery Bear patron, you can watch our content with no ads. And that includes today's video show. There's a link in the show notes below, and that's open to all our Bakery Bear patrons, and you can watch the show without ads. So sincere apologies if you are dealing with ads. We have not turned those on.
And we get no income from them.
We get zero income from them.
It's absolutely nothing to do with us. You know, like Dan said, it's not our decision, and we absolutely are completely against it.
YouTube are doing some very interesting things at the moment. They're changing from what was a community. I feel like they're trying to turn themselves into something like a Netflix or an Amazon Prime. But don't worry, the show will always be on YouTube because, you know, we know that there's lots of you out there who enjoy watching it on YouTube, but unfortunately, you will have to deal with some ads. If the ads get on your nerves, though, and you want to support the show and you want to keep us making more walks and more dyeing and all sorts of other wonderful things, like the Advent calendar coming up later on this year, become a Baker Bear patron and you can watch everything ad-free on Vimeo. Cool. Oh, and just before we get going with the show, oh yes, this is the summer of 24.
Oh, 24.
Kay's so into it, she's even changed her ringtone.
I have. My ringtone on my phone is the CTU ringtone. How cool is that? It's brilliant. I love it. So like when my mum rings me, for example, I feel like I'm getting a call from Jack Bauer.
Yes.
I wish I was.
Yes. It's so
fabulous. I love it.
So we're on season 6 and talk about timeless TV. It's so brilliantly made.
Yeah, and it does, you know, as the seasons go on, you know, you would think it would wane in terms of Wayne.
Yes.
Wayne Palmer. Wayne Palmer's currently
President Wayne Palmer.
President.
I watched it first time when Bryony was a baby.
Yeah.
We then watched it together.
Yeah.
And then this is the first time we've properly watched it through again.
Yeah.
All the way from start to finish. And it's the best decision.
I have to stop knitting at certain points. It's that.
She gets so into it. It's so funny.
I loved it.
Cool. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I think it's time that we found out, Kay Jones, what's on your needle?
Well, the first thing is something new.
Ooh.
And I need a sock blocker for
Amazing.
it. Can you see this little picture up here?
Why don't you bring it down and show everybody?
This, Bryony drew this. And she's madly into Star Trek.
The Next Generation.
Not Enterprise, I can never remember. Next Generation. And she drew us yesterday as Star Trek characters. So look, here's me and Dan. Aren't we adorable? And look, I'm blue and Dan's red, so...
I'm a captain.
Dan's a captain.
How many pips have you got?
I've got 3 pips, and you've got 4.
Amazing.
So you're the captain and I'm like a commander or something?
That's a lot of pips.
Yeah, because like Data only has 2.5, doesn't he?
Yes.
So this is like Riker, isn't it? I'm like Riker.
Yeah, or maybe you're high up in the... Because I think she made you medical, didn't she?
Yes, I think I'm medical, which is bizarre because that's the last job I would ever do. But aren't we super cute? Look at us.
It's perfect. I love it.
Oh, that's my blocker.
That's all
so
right.
I'll pop us back up there. Look. So I'm knitting a pair
This is epic.
Yeah, I'm knitting a pair of socks. Now, this pair of socks is inspired by the fact that I finished one. In September, Bryony goes back to school. And
That's really the month that all children in the UK
all children
go
go back. I think in Scotland it's different. It might be like end of August, but
it's certainly different in America. They go back.
August, I think they go back in America. But certainly in England, all kids go back to school the beginning of September. And this year, Bryony starts in year 11.
Wow.
Now, if you're our age, year 11 would be 5th form, if that makes it a bit easier to understand. She'll be 16 in October. So, again, if that helps you to identify where she'd be in your country. And this is actually the last year that Bryony will wear a school uniform.
Yes.
So it's quite a... it's a big year because she does the GCSEs. Hopefully she will actually do her GCSEs.
Yeah.
It's the last uniformed year. She's going to be 16. It just feels like a big year, doesn't
Coming
it?
of age.
It is. I think it's quite an important year in a kid's life. And her school uniform, she wears the navy blue blazer, a pale blue shirt, and you can wear either a grey skirt or grey trousers.
And she wears a nice tie.
And a tie. Bryony always wears trousers. She's never really been wanting to wear skirts. Anyway, they have to wear either grey or white. If it's a skirt, you wear grey tights. But if you wear trousers, you can wear either grey or white socks underneath. Now, she absolutely loathes bought socks.
Isn't that cool?
And because she's got a massive drawer full of hand-knitted socks and that's all she wears normally. But for school, she always has to wear shop-bought socks. And she hates them. Because they're
I see a day in her future where she does become a knitter.
Maybe, so
because
she
if
can
she
knit
loves
socks. But then I'll
knitted
always
socks
provide
that
her with
much,
socks.
you will, but you can see she's going to get to an age where she's going to be like, I want to do this for my kids.
Maybe she will, yeah. So she always, she's got these grey socks and she really doesn't like them. She doesn't like the tightness of shop-bought socks. Because no matter what you do, I think, with shop-bought socks, they always have got a lot of negative ease, I find.
I always get tide marks.
So do I. I wear 2 pairs of those sort of trainer socks for when I'm walking. But they are really good quality ones, aren't they? I can't remember the brand.
It's Bridgedale.
Oh, that's it. Bridgedale. They're very good. And they don't constrict your foot, and I don't like that either. So anyway, very long story to tell you that I'm knitting her a pair of school socks. Now, she's not going to be able to wear these every day. It's just 1 pair of socks. But maybe she'll wear them on a Thursday and a Friday or something. Because I find you can wear hand-knitted socks for a couple of days without having to wash them sort of every day. I do find that because they're wool, you can just wear them longer, I find, between washes. So I thought, right, I'll just knit her a pair of grey socks. Not white, because white would just show up every speck of dirt, wouldn't they? And I thought, right, okay, I'm going to knit her a pair of school socks. I'll show you the first sock. I've finished 1 sock and I'm on to the second one because I want to get these done in plenty of time. I don't want to be rushing. I know it's only the beginning of August, and I was excited to knit them as well. So here's the first one. Oh, isn't it lovely?
It's amazing. It's perfect.
Now, what I've done, you can see it's got a lace panel at the top, and then I've done a tiny little bit of the lace down before the toe as well. I just liked that little touch down here. Now, traditionally, when I was at school socks for me were knee-high lace. They had like lace patterns on and they were white. So I wanted to...
Was that primary school?
Yeah. I wanted... Yeah, I know, yeah. Not secondary school,
I hope
no.
that wasn't fifth form.
No, but when I think of school socks, I do think of like the school socks I used to wear when I was in primary school, so a younger age. And they always had that sort of lace on, didn't they? Now, I wanted to add an element of that sort of vintage school sock feel, but I didn't want it all over lace because I know that sometimes you can... I always used to have like an imprint of the lace on my foot when I took my socks off.
It was great. You could continue enjoying the design when you were in the bath.
This probably wouldn't happen with these anyway because they're hand knitted. You know, again, it was that bought shop sock that was really sucky in. But I wanted to add an element of that sort of vintage feel. So I thought, right, I'll just put in a bit of lace at the top. And then as I was knitting down it, I thought, right, okay, I'm just going to add a tiny bit of the lace, just one repeat before the toe. And I'm really pleased with them. I think they're lovely. Really nice.
Yeah.
I love the little lace. It's just a little V lace, which I think is sort of very vintage looking. It's got that 70s feel for me. I did a 1x1 rib because, again, my school socks, I remember, always had that 1x1 rib. And then just a normal slip stitch heel flap and a French turn, and then my umbrella toe. And I've started the second one. I only cast it on yesterday, so I've only done the cuff, and then I've done sort of 3 repeats of the lace at the top. And I'm knitting them on, that's the other thing, I'm knitting them on 2.5mm because she also likes a pair that I made her recently that I knit on 2.5mm because...
What do you used to do?
2.25 is what I normally use, but she likes having that positive. It is really more of a positive ease, and I know a lot of people don't like that, but she really likes that. She says they're really comfortable, and she likes the fact that they don't really grip onto her feet. Everyone's different, aren't they? And everyone likes something different in the socks. I also like socks that are not really tight on my feet. So, you know, I'm happy to do them on 2.5mm, and I actually really love knitting socks with a 2.5mm needle. I get about 8 stitches to the inch on 2.5mm, so it's still a nice gauge. I think with 2.25 it's more like 8.5 stitches to the inch I get. The yarn was the other thing. I had to find a grey that I thought was a really nice school grey. And as I look at it now in the camera, I kind of wish it hadn't done so much of this swirl. That's not as noticeable in real life. It just looks sort of tonal. So the yarn I'm using has also got some gold sparkle in it, which is very nice. I think you can see the sparkle actually. Can you see it as I turn it? It's a really lovely yarn. So it's Eden Cottage yarns, and the colour is charcoal, and it's on the Rosedale base, which is 80% superwash superfine merino, 15 nylon and 5 gold stellina. And you get 400 metres.
Rosedale, which is of course in the middle of the North York Moors.
Yeah, she does use names like Brimham, Rosedale. It is all because she's based in Yorkshire.
It's just so confusing. Rosedale. You'd think that would be in the Dales.
It's not in the Dales.
No.
Is it? Where is it?
It's in the middle of the North York Moors.
Oh, right, okay.
But that's because the confusion comes in that I think when you hear the Yorkshire Dales, you just think any dale in Yorkshire then is in the Yorkshire Dales. Well, of course, you can get dales anywhere.
Yeah.
It's just that is one huge national park that's full of dales.
Yeah.
Rosedale's beautiful, actually.
Right.
There's an old... There's no remains of it, but there's an old... It was a nunnery, actually. Rosedale Abbey, you can still go to where it was.
I didn't know that. So, yeah, I'm going to finish off that second one, and then I'll give these to Bryony at the start of term. You know, the thing I'm most pleased about when I knit socks, and it's my favourite bit of knitting socks now, is picking up the corners. And I know that this is always, well, for me, when I first started knitting socks, they just looked a mess, those corners, because I didn't know what I was doing, you know, and you just do your best, don't you, at the time. But I've just worked on it and worked on it and worked on it over the years. And now I just think, I honestly don't think I could get them any more perfect, and both sides are brilliant. So here in the corner, if I show you, can you see how neat that is? And then the other side as well, look, is super neat. And I show you exactly what I do to do that in my vanilla cream socks pattern. That's just a vanilla sock with a bit of detail, and I put in there all of the videos. There's video tutorials for every technique that I now use to produce like the neatest sock I possibly can. And you know, one of the things I do is I show you how I join in the round at the top here to get a really smooth join. These haven't been blocked either. So, you know, I was super pleased when I look at the corners and I'm like, oh, look at those corners. They just look amazing. And I know a lot of people wouldn't even notice them, would they? You know, if you give a pair of socks to someone, they probably wouldn't even notice that. But it just makes me feel good when I look at that and think, oh, that's so neat and tidy and lovely.
Yeah, but you could say the same thing if you were a sculptor. A sculptor. And you were, you know, you got a piece of rock and you were, you know, creating some lovely sculpture out of it. And, you know, how you shape a particular foot or a head or whatever. To you, it might look dreadful. To the layman, they might look at it and think, well, that looks fine. Do you know what I mean? Yeah,
I do. I mean, art is very subjective, isn't it, though? But
it is subjective, but I think sometimes what we do as knitters is, I think we denigrate our art form because we don't consider ourselves. At the end of the day, we're like sculptors, we're like artists, aren't we? And if we want to perfect what we're doing, that's a really healthy and human trait, because normally that's what people want to do. They want to get, if you do something, well, I want to get better at it. And what you've done is you've just become obsessed with certain areas, and what you tend to do is you tend to obsess with the areas, I think, which potentially make or break designs. Yeah,
you know,
like the corners.
The corners have always been
like toes.
A bugbear. And you know, I've been my umbrella toe. You know, I really only ever use my umbrella toe now. I've got another toe which I was showing you actually in another project that I use called a cottage toe, and that's more of a wedge. You know, where you decrease on the sides, but it's still quite rounded. But I just find that the umbrella toe just fits all three of us really, really well, and it's beautifully rounded. It's, you know, it's just such a lovely toe, and it's really nice to work as well. And you don't get that, because sometimes with a wedge toe you can still get that sort of ladder, can't you, where your decreases are on either side, but you don't with this, because it only uses one type of decrease, and it's a really neat one. So I'm going to carry on with the school socks, and I mean, maybe I'll pop them out as a pattern in the autumn. We'll see how I feel about it when they're finished and blocked and everything. But I think they're lovely, and I've just had such fun knitting them.
Okay, this isn't a complete disaster, because
what's happened?
I've lost a row counter.
Right.
But what will have happened is it will have gone into another bag.
Well, you can't have lost it.
No, I won't have lost it unless I was sat. And it, you know,
it could be down the sofa.
Yeah.
Because I've often picked up row counters off the sofa.
So that's number 6. So that one's right. I mean, as it happens, I know where I am, so it's fine.
Oh, right, okay.
It's perfect, and that's the perfect opportunity for you to say,
Dan Jones.
Yes.
What's on your confused needles then?
Well, they're not, thankfully, because I've just finished a section.
All right. Yeah.
It's that big section.
Wow.
The sort of main
big section, isn't
tricky section from this. I mean, it's perfect. I love this project because it is really hard.
You wanted it to be challenging.
Oh, I'm not complaining. It's really great. And it's been the hardest thing for me finding colour work projects which work out my skills in the way which I feel that they need working out in. And fingering weight has been an absolute key for me, because if you can do it in fingering weight, then it'll be so much easier in the thicker yarns.
I think so.
And, you know, you can really see how it wasn't so great down here, but I know why it wasn't so great, and I know what I need to change, because this section is going to repeat itself back up here.
Yeah.
I'm just into this now. But I am relatively happy with how these they're like shamrocky hearts. You can hold it up better.
They are a
than
bit
me.
like shamrocks, yeah. I mean, I think it will show up better once it's had a nice blocking.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think that it shows up nicely now. It's definitely subtle, but that's me, really.
Yeah, you can see it actually, I think, can't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's subtle.
It is subtle, and I think if this was re-knitted in very contrasting yarns,
Yes.
I think it would be...
Well, it would absolutely pop.
You know, would really pop.
That's the beauty of colourwork, isn't it? You can make it fit your personalities. I'm definitely more of an understated person.
It can look so different, I think, depending on what yarns you use.
Well, yeah, if you used black and neon yellow.
Yeah. It'd be very different, wouldn't it? It'd be quite cool, actually, that, wouldn't it?
It would, but I don't think I'd enjoy knitting the backgrounds very much.
Well, no. You've been knitting with a very dark yarn, haven't you?
Yeah, but it has been surprising. I'll show it to you next time. It's the Rough Sea yarn, the Let Lopey
Rough Sea colourways, and it's like
I'm
a sort of inky, greyish, bluish, greenish sort of colour, isn't it?
I'm knitting the body of the Alexander in it, and I was worried, thinking that it's not going to work for me on a night time because it was so dark. I was likening it to the Galaxy and also to the black that I used on the Ridari, and that really was hard to see, and it was a bit annoying, to be honest. But this has just not been the case. It feels slightly luminous.
Yeah, I think because it's got lots of little flecks of different bits.
The stitches are popping.
Yeah, it's not quite as, you know, it's like it's that solid black, isn't it, that I just can't knit with at all.
Jet black.
Yeah, when it's properly black, it's just not fun, I don't think, to knit with that. But, you know, sometimes it is called for. But...
Absolutely it's called for, because on the Ridari, those bits of black really are great.
Yeah.
And similarly, the Galaxy, it's a lovely colour.
Yeah.
Really, you should be sat in the garden when you knit it.
You should, yeah. I mean, natural daylight, you know, but we never sit in the garden in it, do we, to be fair?
I think I'd get too hot, unless we did it in the winter.
That's true.
Which might be quite fun.
Yeah, that might be quite nice.
We need to think of a lovely name for this.
Do we?
Well, I think we do, because it's starting to take shape now.
Yeah.
I think it'll be perfect for your walks on a morning.
Yes.
In the autumn and the winter.
I love a cowl.
And it'll be perfect as well, because you'll be able to pull it up over your head if it gets really chilly.
That would be a look, wouldn't it?
You'd look like someone off Star Trek.
Yes, I would.
The colourways.
Yes.
Happy Christmas, Harry.
Yeah, this is Fondant Fibre.
Oh, lovely.
Lovely Deb. Happy Christmas, Harry. Happy Christmas, Harry. And then this one is Regia Merino Yak, and we have got another ball of this, because I don't think this will be enough, but we have got another ball. This, I think, will be plenty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Both perfect to knit with, and both
they go together
great.
well. Yeah, the two bases seem to marry quite nicely together.
They absolutely do, and that's such a key thing, isn't it? Because if you've got two yarns...
Yeah, if the bases are very different...
It's going to be a problem.
It can affect, you know, especially with colour work, it can affect the way it looks. But these two seem to go together really nicely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it does have that kind of old look. Do you know, I'm thinking of like something archaeological.
Yeah.
So maybe that might be a good theme for
Definitely.
you know, it's like it's been dug up and it's faded in parts.
Yeah. Yeah, there's an abbey on the south coast of Scotland, which we visited.
Sweetheart.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's got hearts on it.
Oh, it has.
Sweetheart Cowl.
Oh, you see,
Because that's a
quite
ruin.
nice. That is a ruin, yeah.
So it's a bit time-teamy.
And I designed it for you and your little sweetheart.
And I've knitted it for you.
Aww.
And you're all right. What else is on your needles?
To know.
I'm an Englishman.
Now.
I keep my Emotions
You do not.
locked up.
You do not. Right, so I'm knitting another owl cowl. If you remember from the last episode, I showed you a new pattern that I just put out. It's a free pattern, and it's called the owl cowl. And to be honest, as soon as I finished that one, I cast on another one. You have seen the yarns before, and it's just so fun. The colours are so fun. And Bryony, I showed it to Bryony this morning. She hadn't seen it because I've just been knitting it at bedtime, so she'd not seen it. And she said it reminds her of the 80s. And I think she's absolutely right. So I've had the first yarn I've had in my stash. I think I bought this last year. Pretty sure it was just last year. Probably towards Christmas time, because it's a Christmas themed yarn, although I'm not letting that sway me. And it's from Hedgerow Yarns, and it's the Fairy Lights colourway, and it's on the 80-20 base, so it's the 2-ply base, and you get 365 metres for 100 grams, so it's slightly plumper, and it's this gorgeous speckled yarn with sort of neon-y pink and blue and yellow, and then
lovely.
Yeah, you get green where the blue and the yellow meet. So nice. And then I dyed up some yarns to go with it. So I've got these 3 colours to go with it. They're amazing. Bright and neon and just really fun. So when you put them all together, I think it's just really nice. I just think it'll be such a nice bright pop of colour around your neck in the depths of winter. I think that'll be really nice. And I've started knitting it and I'm here. So what I'm doing, look at this. Look at how fun this is. Oh my goodness, get your sunglasses on for this one.
You have to do matching leg warmers.
Oh, get on. But isn't it fun? So what I'm doing is I'm using the main, the speckled yarn is the main colour, and then I'm alternating the 3 bright colours. So there'll be 2 repeats because there's 6 stripes of the bright colours. And then you get, in the middle section, you get 5 of the speckled, and then you've got the rib top and bottom. So there'll be 2 repeats of the neon-y bright yarn. And it's just so fun to knit. And it's got, the bands are separated by a row of garter, and then you get a little eyelet detail, which I think looks like an owl's face, hence the name. Now, one thing that I've discovered, I'm using the yellow was a yarn that I dyed ages ago, actually. I'd got this in my stash already, and this is the exact same base as the Hedgerow yarns. It's the 80-20, all fine. I didn't have that exact base in my undyed yarn, but I had a 2-ply yarn, but this one is an 85-15. So it's 85 superwash, I think it's superwash superfine merino, and 15 nylon, and it's a high twist. And I thought they looked exactly the same. They're not the same. I actually don't like knitting with the 85-15. The 80-20, not a problem with it at all. The 85-15, I've found it's quite rope-like. It's quite hard on my fingers. So far I've only done the pink one is in the 85-15. And when you sort of squish that section, you can really feel the stitches. Do you know what I mean? You can really feel, it doesn't just feel like a fabric, you can really feel the stitches. Whereas when I squish the other, I mean, you can feel it, but it's just not as, it just feels a bit sort of hard somehow. And I think when I've looked at them in sort of detail, I do think that the 85-15 has a higher twist than the 80-20. I think the 80-20 is a slightly more relaxed twist. So to me it feels softer than the 85-15, which just to knit, it's more to knit with than the actual feel of the 2 separate things in your hand. I find it, as I was knitting with it, I was like, gosh, why does this feel so different? Do you know, because as you're knitting, you can you're gripping the fabric underneath, aren't you? And I could just feel it, and I'm just not enjoying knitting with that 85-15 at all. But But I'm going to persevere because it looks totally fine in the cowl. But, you know, that's a good thing to know, isn't it? I mean, I certainly won't buy that from any hand dyers if I see it, and I won't buy it to dye on again. But, you know, as I always say, each to their own, and, you know, I'm just telling you my experience of it. You might absolutely love it, and that's great. But it's working, you know, it works perfectly well for the cowl, and it's just so fun. And when I had that blue next, it is like an 80s explosion, isn't it? It's brilliant. So I'm really enjoying it. It's just relaxed, 24 bedtime knitting. You know, every little section I just get to do that bit of detail when I change colours, so that keeps the interest there. And it's nice to see it grow and see what it looks like as the colours develop.
Is there such a thing as relaxed 24 knitting?
I don't know that there is really.
I wonder if your tension goes up when you're watching 24.
Maybe it does. I mean, it might do. Yeah, it might do. Can't really tell.
And does it loosen off when you're watching Time Team? No,
Possibly.
you fall asleep then.
I fall asleep then, yeah. I can't knit with the Time Team, just sends me to sleep, yeah, which is great. So, yeah, really enjoying that. So if you want to knit your own owl cowl, it's a free pattern on Ravelry and Lovecraft, so you can just go download it and knit yourself a cowl. I know that a lot of people have downloaded it, which is great. It's always nice to see that. So I hope there are lots of you out there that are enjoying knitting up a lovely owl cowl. And I'm using, as always, I think it is pretty much as always actually, when I'm knitting hats or cowls, I use Knit Pro Nova. Really like them, and this is 3.25mm. What else have you got to show us?
Well, here's the first sock which I showed you a while ago, which I finished. It's the Flurry socks, and they're just gorgeous. I love these socks. They're so unbelievably pretty. And everything about them makes me feel chilly.
Oh, that's nice, isn't it?
Whether it's the colour, whether it's the sort of icy looking speckles.
It's got sparkles in it
but
as
also
well,
take the sparkles away. They're just the white bits on the colourway.
Yeah, it's very tonal, that one.
It's seriously tonal. And here's the second one. I'm now just one decrease away from finishing.
Wow, you're
the
nearly
gusset
done.
decreases. Well, hardly.
Is that the only pair of socks you've got on the needles?
Yes.
Excellent.
Why?
I just wondered.
Oh, right.
Will you want to make another pair?
Yes.
Oh, right.
I always have to have a pair of socks on the needles.
Oh, right, okay.
Yes.
What do you think you'll want to knit next? Moss Eccles?
Yes, I think that's the one.
Well, there's the Dunbrock you might...
Yeah, I really fancy doing the Dunbrock socks.
Yeah.
But Kay talks about how proud she is of her corners. Well, my corners are even better than Kay's corners. I mean, look at those. And what I did for years, I deliberately did them the rubbish way on here, so you can see how not to do them.
Yeah, this is a good example, actually. Look at, can you see how it's a little bit messy in that corner? It's not bad. It's a bit messy. Now show the other one.
On the same side.
Ooh. And why are those corners so neat, Dan?
Because I chose to do it badly on there, and on these I tried hard.
Really, why are those corners neat?
Because she gave me a lesson on how
When he got to the
it.
corners, I said, right, don't you do those corners until I'm supervising. And I just showed him.
But I did them.
Yeah, Dan did them.
She did not do them.
No, I showed him exactly where his needle should go.
So what this tells you is, if you want perfect corners, go and watch Kay's tutorial video.
I'll say yes, but
follow what it says.
There's other ways of doing it.
And your corners will come out looking like this.
Yes.
If you do not go and watch Kay's video,
They'll look like that.
and you just get on with it and think, I know what I'm doing, that's how they turn out. So yes, I was thrilled. I mean, really thrilled, to be honest.
Yeah, they look lovely.
The difference is unbelievable. And I was just getting it a bit wrong. I had watched...
You had watched it, but not for a while, and I think you just thought you knew where to put your needle.
I think you need to watch it as you're doing it.
Yes, I agree.
Not film it, edit it, think, that's how you do it.
And then try
and
to do
then
it.
3 months later, I know how to do this. And, you know, it's made me love this sock all the more, because there's nothing more frustrating when you know that there's an area that's not quite right. It's just annoying, and you just think, ugh. and it makes you sort of disengage a bit. It certainly does me, disengage a bit with the project. This though, and doing it right this side, has really, it's just made me excited now about the next one. And yeah, I mean, I think it's just lovely.
It's a lovely lace pattern.
Yeah, apart from the bit where I messed up.
It runs down the top of the foot.
Oh, I'm really sorry. I got it a bit wrong.
It looks pretty good, honey. And then it's just got a little dot stitch over the rest.
It looks weird.
Yeah, that bit's a bit dodgy. That's okay. But I still haven't...
I put the holes in the wrong places.
I still haven't gifted... I haven't done anything with my original flurry socks. I've still got them upstairs. In fact, I've still got all 3 pairs of, that went with that winter collection.
Yeah.
And I'm saving them, actually. I'm going to give them to Bryony this Christmas, I think.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Lovely. So, flurry socks, yarn dyed by Kay.
Indeed, it's that Cinderella.
Yes.
It's the Cinderella blue.
And I've adored every minute of this project. To be fair, the last couple of pairs of socks I've knitted, I've loved every bit of it. 2 or 3 pairs, actually. I've sort of got into a zone, and I'm knowing now, technique's right, using the right needles, which are the cubics, 2.5.
2.5 millimetre.
Because I dropped down, didn't I?
You did?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're managing okay, aren't you?
Yes.
I think it's just an adjustment period, isn't it? So your next pair, I think...
will be way better.
Yeah, well, there's nothing wrong with those.
Because these are rubbish.
They're not rubbish.
What else is on your needle?
Well, I've got another pair of socks, and this pair are so close to being finished, but I just didn't get them quite finished. I was working on them early this morning thinking I'll get them finished, and I just couldn't manage it. But they're almost there. They will be done probably this afternoon. But these are my Prairie Socks, and this is an early sock design from about 4 years ago, I think now. I recently said on one of the shows that I wanted to refresh the pattern. Just bring it in line with all of my other patterns. So I'm knitting another pair so I can do fresh photography. And I dyed up this yarn for it, and I've shown you how to dye this yarn in the last episode.
Yes, of My Favourite Colourways.
This is the Wide Open Prairie colourway. And I'm so close, I'll show you the second sock in a minute. But this is the first one.
Oh, it's lovely.
It is lovely, and I'm really pleased with the colour. And I know how I'm going to photograph them, and I think it'll be really pretty. And then the second one, I'm on the toe.
Oh.
So I'm so close, but I just ran out of time this morning. So yeah, look, I'm...
so close. I mean,
on the toe.
You must have been so frustrated this morning.
I know.
Were you?
I just thought I'm just not.
I'm not going to rush it because I won't enjoy it.
No, and and even if I'd finished them, I wouldn't have had time to block them. And I like to show you them finished, not just fresh off the needles finished. So I'm almost done. I'm on the toe, and this toe actually is my cottage toe that I used for these ones. So I'll take this one off the blocker and show you the shape of it. It's a really lovely toe. So it's like the more sort of...
What's on the flurry?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It's the same as what's on the flurry, yeah. Because I do like to, like when I did that little winter collection last sort of December, I like to put something different in each of the sock patterns. So I don't just like... it'd be so easy just to have the same...
Plug and play.
Yeah, the same heel, the same turn, the same toe in every single pattern, and then just plug in a pattern. That would be so easy to do. But I like to give people a bit more than that.
I think also as well, sometimes there's certain patterns, like the flurry, for example, I think it suits the design.
Well, it did, because there was a connection with the story. Because I wrote a story that ran through those 3 designs, and the cottage toe, there was a little log cabin involved in it, and the cottage toe was like the roof of the cabin. So it had that connection. So I just like to vary things and just make sure that I'm giving as much value for money as I can.
Also, as well, it's not just about value, it's putting the right toe in the right design. And the same with the heel, and the same with the...
some people might just think, well, a toe is a toe.
It isn't.
It's not when you put a lot of thought into a design and it's got a lot of meaning, and you know what I'm like with meaning.
You're coming back to the artistry again, the sculpturing, everything has got a reason.
What did we watch recently? It was only yesterday, and we were watching something and they were talking about sculpture and art, can't remember what it was, but they referred to, like, one sculptor had said, it was something like Michelangelo.
I think it was Michelangelo.
Had said that when he sees a piece of stone, it's like the sculpture is inside the piece of stone, and all he's got to do is remove the excess bits, and then the sculpture will be there.
And what he's saying is he can see the finished.
Yeah, and I think that's just an amazing way to think of something, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, you see, as, you know, if you were a wood carver, for example, to anyone else it might just be a tree trunk or whatever, or a branch. But you can see what's inside that, and then it's your job to remove the bits.
What you're talking
to then
about
expose the thing
is true
inside.
artistry.
Yeah.
Because it's the same for painters.
Yeah.
To you, that's a blank canvas. To me, that is a million opportunities. I can see, you know, I can't because I'm not a painter. But as a musician, it's exactly the same.
I think we're all artists in different ways, aren't we?
You just have to find your art form.
I think there's creativity in everybody, and some people will say, "Oh, I'm not creative at all."
You just haven't found your thing.
Absolutely. I think everybody can be creative, and everybody's got the ability to be creative, but you do just have to find that thing, you know. It might be that pottery's your thing, it might be that wood carving is, it might be that, you know, sculpting or knitting or painting or whatever. Gardening, I think, is a...
Can you imagine how frustrating sculpture must be if you make a mistake?
Well, you can lose the whole thing, can't you? I was watching another thing recently. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's called... Is it Fake or Fortune on BBC? I forget.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
And they had this couple who had found this sculpture in their back garden. It was a long story as to why they'd found it.
In the ground?
In the ground. Well, it wasn't in their garden. It was in one of their neighbours' gardens.
They stole it?
No, she gave it to them when she passed away.
Oh.
And they'd always thought it was a Henry Moore. So they looked into it, investigated it and everything. It turned out it wasn't, unfortunately. So it wasn't worth the £1 million they thought it was. It was worth like 2,000. But it was by, they knew who it was by, and, you know, that's all interesting. But, you know, this is why I find art so subjective, because Henry Moore is vastly famous and his sculptures, you know, are millions of pounds, and I just don't get it.
Well, the same could be said for a million other successful artists.
Yeah, I know, and that's why it's so subjective, isn't it? Because one person sees beauty in it, and I just look at it and think,
who was
what
the artist
is that?
that did the unmade bed?
Tracy Emin. You see, I don't get her at all, and I don't get the man
Damien
who
Hirst.
cut the shark in half or whatever it was.
Was it a cow?
Cow? I mean...
I don't know.
I don't get it. But then there's other art that I think is just absolutely beautiful, and somebody else would say, well, you know, I prefer the modern art. It is there's something for everyone, isn't there, in art?
Unless you go to Chatsworth.
Well,
when
you know,
all
we kind of fell out with
modern.
The art around Chatsworth a little bit. In the grounds, I'm talking about.
Also in some of the rooms, because isn't there a wall which is the DNA of...
Yeah, the current Duke started putting in a lot of modern art into the grounds, a lot with sculptures and things, and but also displays within the house. It wasn't my bag at all. I was just like, what are we trying to say with this? But again, you know, another person would walk around the garden and say, this is fantastic that he's using this old setting to show off something modern. That's great, you know, each to their own. Anyway, back to my toe. So this is my cottage toe. So it's a lovely round wedge toe. Fits really nicely. So yeah, almost finished my Prairie Socks, and as soon as I've got that finished and blocked and photographed, I will refresh the pattern, and then I will let you know. So it'll be on the next show. I would have thought I'll let you know that that's all done and an update has been sent out. What I will do is, when I replace the pattern on Ravelry, I'll send out an update to anybody that's ever bought it.
On Ravelry.
On Ravelry. I can't do that on Lovecrafts because it just doesn't have that facility, unfortunately. The other thing I will say about an update on Ravelry is that I know that some people no longer use Ravelry. Now, if you are one of those people and you have previously purchased the pattern, you know, this, unfortunately, again, you know, this is a Ravelry feature, if you like. So if you're no longer using Ravelry, then it's not something that I can provide to you. It is provided via that feature on Ravelry. So there we go, almost done pair of socks. I'm going to finish those this afternoon. I'm doing some art project or something with Bryony this afternoon, but I'm sure I'll be able to find some time to finish those off, and then I will show you on the next show them all done.
Cool. I think it's time that we went for a lovely walk.
Yes.
Because it's been too long.
It has.
So we're going to venture out to a dale that we first visited in episode 2 of the very first season of Walking the Dales. This is a place famous for its cheese and Wallace and Gromit.
Oh, lovely.
Who loves a bit of Wensleydale.
And a bit of fruitcake to go with it.
It's also a place that Kevin Costner's visited.
Yeah.
Oh yes, it's also a place, as we found out earlier on in the show, which the wonderful James Herriot went for his honeymoon. So without further ado, I think it's time I shut up and we enjoyed a rather wet walk in Wensleydale.
Welcome everyone to a brand new season of walks. Over the next few months we'll be undertaking 5 hikes in the Yorkshire Dales and 5 hikes in the North York Moors.
We're going to be walking through a landscape I've spent the last 35 years exploring, and I can't wait to share with you some of my favourite destinations and the stories that surround them.
From mysterious castles to beautiful forests and long-forgotten villages, in this series we're going to undertake some wonderful adventures. But where are we heading today?
Doesn't make you wonder,
Welcome everyone to Wensleydale in the heart of the Yorkshire Dales National Park. If you're looking for picture-perfect postcard vistas, it normally doesn't get much better than this. This is a part of the Yorkshire Dales that I've probably visited 4 times in my life. So to say that I'm excited about getting out and exploring would be an understatement. We're absolutely surrounded by some fascinating destinations on today's walk. There's medieval mines, there's Bronze Age cairns, there's sites of special scientific interest, there's nature reserves and some wonderful villages. Just take a look at this. Now you see why I'm so excited, and that, would you believe it, is just the tip of the iceberg. It's at times like this, and I've pondered this thought many times, haven't I, on our walks? Why haven't I been here before and ventured out and explored? Well, I think I know the reason why. Just down the road from here, I actually drove through it on the way to this lovely car park where we're starting today's walk, is Aysgarth Falls. Now, you may not know it, but you know Aysgarth Falls. You certainly do if you've seen Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, because it was chosen as one of the key locations in the filming of that Kevin Costner movie. Do you remember the scene where Robin first meets the Little John and the merry men in the forest, and they have the fight in the waterfall? That is Aysgarth Falls. So if you want to enjoy Aysgarth Falls sites, because we're not going to be going there today, just sit down and watch Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. Today it's time for me to really put right that wrong of not exploring this wonderful countryside, because there's a reason why this place was chosen by Hollywood movies to come and make films, because it is literally stunning. It's quite an interesting day today because yes, it is the middle of the summer, but it's absolutely pouring down. But do you know what? I'm actually quite excited, and I think you know me well enough to know that rain and cold, because would you believe it, it's 13 degrees today. The last time we walked, when we did that wonderful walk at Byland Abbey, it was pushing to sort of 30, 31 degrees. So talk about a drop in one episode. So I've got my lovely, normally my winter coat on, and my hat was on immediately, wasn't it, as soon as I got out of the car, because the rain has been pretty bad, although it is easing up. So I think as the rain is stopping, it's the perfect time for me to shut up and for us to once again go walk in the Dales. Our adventure today is going to begin and end in a lovely wood. It's called Hoare Bankwood, it's just up here. And it sits at the foot of the side of the dale which we're going to be climbing up, and it is steeper than I expected. We're going to be climbing up this to explore some wonderful things when we get up to the top. Right now though, I'm looking forward to getting into this wood because I think it's going to give me a little bit of shelter from the rain. If ever you were going to tell me that a hobbit was going to appear and that I was in the land. I'm not really a lover of the Lord of the Rings, so I don't really know the story too well, but all I know is this. I'm sure that's where Bilbo Baggins lives. Or maybe some fairies. If there's one thing that I love in any landscape, it's the stories that are waiting to be discovered. Sometimes they're in the landscape, but other times it's more obvious than that. Like place names, for example. This part of the world is called Rabbit Warren, and the story attached to this is as obvious as it might sound. And it's not just the name that lives on, because at the end of the field where the rabbits were kept is the house where the man who looked after them lived. It's called Warren House. I mean, how brilliant is that? And his job title was a warrener. I mean, I just love it. I had no idea that's where that name comes from, because of course there's people now around called Mr. Warrener. They of course must be related to someone who used to look after rabbits. But that house is still lived in to this day, 300 years later. And I had no idea, you know, I'm 45 years old and I had no idea that rabbits were not indigenous to this country. But Rabbit Warren, it lies behind us now, because we're making our way towards the first settlement on today's walk. And where there's people, that normally brings travel links. And this path actually runs adjacent to the Wensleydale railway line. Whilst the line hasn't opened this far down the track, it's still completely dismantled. You can catch trains from about a mile in that direction from a village called Redmire and catch them quite a few miles heading across to the east. And I can tell you through experience, it's an absolutely wonderful day out, because the majority of the trains are heritage trains. So they're either steamers or they're diesel, they're old diesel ones, and both are just amazing things to behold and to ride on. There's one story though attached to the railways around here that really makes me smile, and that's Aysgarth. Now, we mentioned Aysgarth earlier on. Do you remember that's the place where Robin Hood Prince of Thieves used for some of its filming. Well, Aysgarth still has a railway station, as do many of the places further down the line, but the problem is the line's dismantled, so there's no trains due on the platform anytime soon. That didn't stop railway enthusiast, if I can get my words out right, David Smith, from buying the station at Aysgarth and getting permission to relay the track just in the station. He's created his very own private full-size railway track. I don't quite know what he's going to do with it, but what he said is he's going to open it to the public a couple of days of the year. But I mean, I love that. I bet you he played with Hornby railway lines when he was a kid, and now he's got his own full-size ones and his own station. We're approaching Carperby, the first of 2 villages on today's walk. It's a typical Yorkshire Dales village. I think I've driven through it maybe once or twice. I can't really remember it, so I'm really looking forward to getting boots on the ground and getting a feel for the place. Whilst you might not have heard of it, there's a man who visited here once for his honeymoon who I think you just might have heard of. Tell you what I did not expect to find here, because we're literally out in the middle of nowhere. There's a football pitch, and it looks like quite a nice one. You know, I think I'm supposed to go that way, but there's lots of interesting looking cows, and you know my opinion on cows on these walks, so I think I'm going to be slightly cheeky and just walk around the edge of this football pitch. I think actually this football pitch is quite famous. I think it was used in an advert. It was on national TV. There was an England footballer who came and played here, and it was filmed in this advert. I've not seen the advert, so I don't really know, but as I recall, the footballer was Peter Crouch. Anyway, it's the first football pitch I've ever seen, literally in the middle of nowhere. It's great. I think this style is what I'm looking for. It's just cut off the corner there. Many people think actually that James Herriot worked here in the Yorkshire Dales. That's actually wrong. His practice and majority of his work was done over in the North York Moors National Park. But when they came to film the classic Christopher Timothy series of All Creatures Great and Small, they chose to set it here in arguably the more picturesque Yorkshire Dales. I can assure you of one thing, James and his wife will most definitely have walked up this path back in 1941 when they were on their honeymoon. Why am I so certain? Because this track is famous around here, and it's going to take us up right onto the top of the dale to some absolutely amazing archaeology. The question you're asking is, how do we know that's what Kendall Well was used for? Well, I'll tell you, it's because it's right on exactly on the track, on the line of a drove road. And that drove road is potentially thousands of years old, and it's what we're going to make our way onto now, and we're going to explore in the second part of our walk. So get ready for ancient field systems, loads of disused medieval mines, and even some Bronze Age cairns. I'll see you later for more Walking the Dales.
What a wonderful start. Oh my goodness. I mean, just so many wonderful things just there, hidden in the landscape. Rabbit warren. There it was. No idea at all.
Did you see any rabbits on it?
Loads.
Oh.
There's rabbits everywhere. I mean, like, all over the shop.
Watership Down.
Yes. There was an awful lot of wildlife, actually. Just, there's some kites flying around. Obviously, but bird of prey, lots of rabbits, loads of sheep, loads of cows. I had someone message me the other day to ask if ever we saw any bears. We don't. We only laugh just because we've obviously always lived in this country, and you'd have to go back 1,000 years to find bears in this country.
No bears in the UK unless you go to a zoo.
As the forests disappeared, as the big forest disappeared, it's sort of around the time of the Norman conquest. The population started to rise. It's a very small country. They're stripping away forests so people can live, and that's when bears and wolves both died out. Although they are reintroducing.
I heard that too, wolves.
And bears in a closed environment. Because obviously now, if you threw wolves and bears into the mix,
you can't do it now.
Into a population of millions who've got no idea how to deal with them.
They'd think it was like open season, wouldn't they? They'd be like, oh, this is nice.
It would be open season.
All those lovely humans to feast on.
Yes. Not good. But my goodness, can you believe a football pitch in the middle of nowhere?
That was so cool. I'm not surprised they used it as like a filming location. It was brilliant. It must be great playing football there.
Well, lovely changing room. You know, proper dugout bench for the home and away team. I mean, but literally cows there.
They were, yeah. I'm glad you avoided those cows. Did they look frisky?
I couldn't avoid those cows at one point.
Oh, right.
I had to walk through a field with them in.
Right.
And I come up to the gate, and they're all literally stood
at the gate.
At the gate. There must have been 50 or 60 cows.
That's quite intimidating, isn't it?
I just thought, I've just got to go. So I did, and as I came up, I opened the gate, and they're like
Did they move out the way?
They're just edging back. edging back. Shut the gate, start to edge forward again. And then turn to walk.
And they
then
were all girl cows.
it's like the Red Sea parted. and through I walked.
I think generally speaking,
cows are
they're
fine.
gentle, aren't they? But
Yeah.
I know, if someone changed their mind and ran at you, it wouldn't be good, would it?
It's only horses you've got to be careful of.
Yeah, I'm not a horse person.
Cows,
I'd rather
golden.
go in a field of cows than a field with horses in, I've got to say.
Yeah, just not a bull.
Oh, no, not a bull. But they don't tend to put bulls in... They only put bulls in at certain times of years.
They do, like the time of year that we walked through that field. And do you remember?
Yeah, I do.
It's a walk we did last season. It's the one through Gilling West.
Yeah.
And Kay and I did it around the time of my birthday.
Yeah.
And we came through and there was all girl cows, but then sat in the middle, there was a giant bull.
Massive. It was absolutely enormous.
But look, we're just getting started because the whole reason why we've done this walk is to get to the old Drovers Road.
Yes.
And that is a sight to behold, let me tell you. So much archaeology up there. But that's all to come in part 2 because now it's time for me to ask Kay Jones, what's off your needles?
I do have one thing. Actually, it's 24 things.
Oh no. She's obsessed.
The show of 24. Yep, I finished my mini sock bunting.
Wow.
And let me tell you, I was glad to finish it. Because even though I loved knitting these, when you've knit
A lot
your
more than
way
24.
through... I probably knit about 30 of these because I'm sure I knit 5 or 6 trials before I actually started knitting the 24. So I've knit a lot. So I was very pleased to get them finished.
Are you going to show them the picture first?
Yeah, so the other day me and Bryony did when Dan was out filming actually, I said to Bryony, right, what should we do this afternoon? I'll spend the afternoon with you. You can choose whatever you want to do. We can go out, we can do whatever. And she's like, oh, can we do some watercolour? I said, yeah, of course we can. So we sat down and we spent a few hours doing some watercolour and she was working on a Star Trek picture. And I thought, oh, what shall I do? Sat here. And then I thought, great, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little watercolour of my mini socks and I'm going to try my best to mix all of the colours and match them to the socks and then I can use that within the pattern. And I did and it came out pretty well. Look, oh, hang on, can I get it all in? There we go. And look at my little socks.
Wow.
So I thought I'll number them so you can see they're all numbered and then in the pattern I tell you there's a list and you can check what number is what colourway. I used all Cascade Heritage, so it's all, I wanted it to have that sort of consistent feel. And I think, the colour mixing, I love doing it. I didn't have that many colours of watercolour really, it was just a fairly standard little, it's a Winsor & Newton palette that I've got. We had a couple of other ones as well, but I just used sort of basic colours and just mix them to get the right shade, and I love doing that. I think that's all. I've always felt a bit intimidated with watercolours on getting the right colours because you've got the colours in your palette but then you might want a different shade, and what I did, I just looked at the colours of each of the yarns and I just tried to see, it might be pink, but is it a peachy pink? Is it a more blue pink? It was that kind of thing. And I just mixed them and it came out really well.
Beautiful.
So these are all the colours and I'd sort of put the detail on of the patterns as well. So I've used this within the pattern. Then, that same day, I said to Bryony, right, we've done all that artwork. I need you to help me this afternoon for an hour with staging photos for my mini sock bunting. And honestly, this looks kind of simple when I show you, but it took us ages. And Bryony actually said to me, try it this way, and it worked. But I've done all the photography now, and this is how we did it. So, look. Can you see? Yeah, you can see that, can't you? I'll hold it a bit closer. Is that? No, that's flat onto the screen. It's really difficult. There we go. So this is my mini sock bunting.
Wow.
So we used an old pin board. This was just really old one that, to be honest, needs throwing out. But we covered it in this fabric, and it's the first time I've ever tried hot glue gunning. What?
Okay. What?
Hot glue gunning. Because I'd bought a hot glue gun for something a few months ago and never used it. And I said, oh, let's use the hot glue gun. And Bridie's like, do we have to? People use those at school and they get burnt. I said, look, we're not going to get burnt. We'll just do it. Anyway, it didn't work. I don't know whether we've just got a rubbish one, but it was heating up. And then because I wanted to do a whole long line of it like this, the hot bit of glue didn't last long enough. It did sort of this much, and then I had to wait for it to heat up again. So by the time it had heated up again, this bit had gone hard. It just didn't work. I think they're more suited if you were doing like a blob of glue and then sticking something to it. So anyway, in the end, Bryony just said, why don't we just put Pritt stick around the edges and see if it works? And I said, I don't think that's going to work. It totally worked. So we just put Pritt stick underneath it, like a glue stick, all the way around, stuck the fabric on, completely worked. And then I got these little pegs which have a pin on the back. So we stuck those in, and at first I thought I was going to have it portrait style, but I couldn't fit them all on. And then, so we tried it various ways, portrait style, it just wouldn't fit. And then Bryony says, well, try it landscape. So I thought, right, great, I'll do 3 rows of 8 landscape, wouldn't fit on. And then Bryony said, well, why don't you just do 2 rows of 12? I was like, totally fit. So that's what we did. So they're all hanging now.
Amazing.
And, we can put something in there at Christmas, a little chocolate and a little Lego figure or something. And I think that'd be super cute. So there's 4 different patterns, stitch patterns within the pattern itself. We've got a swirly texture. There's a garter rib. Is that the garter rib? No, that's the lacy one. There's a lacy one, there's a garter rib, and then there's a tiny bit of colour work here. And I think it looks great. So this is the next platinum design, which will go out at the beginning of September to our gold and platinum patrons. Now, I have had a number of people, when I've posted pictures of this on social media, I have had quite a lot of people that have said, oh, can I not buy it separately? And unfortunately, the answer to that is no, it is a platinum pattern. So I did design it specifically as, as part of my platinum collection. So it does go out to our patrons. However, I think it's, if it is something that interests you and you do really want to get the design, then it might be just a good time for you to try out being a patron. There's no obligation to sign up for like 6 months or 12 months or anything.
Yeah, look, I shouldn't tell you this.
You can cancel it whenever you want.
If you sign up as a patron, the day after Kay releases this pattern, you'll be able to download 4 platinum patterns free of charge. So how much do you normally charge for a design?
£4.75. So
how many dollars is that?
Oh gosh, how many dollars is that? I don't know. Maybe six-ish, 7-ish, 6-ish.
So let's say it's
like
$6. So 4 patterns at $6 is 24.
24.
Again, $10.
Yeah.
So that's $14 cheaper than what you would have paid.
But not only that, you get access to all of the tutorials. You'd be able to watch all of the pops that we've done. And,
So try it out for a month.
Try it out for
Get the 4 patterns.
$10.
And then you can always cancel at the end of the month.
Absolutely. Or you might find that you want to carry on. You're really enjoying it. So.
Because we'll be running straight into the start of the next Platinum collection.
Which is the Advent calendar.
Yes, and the Advent calendar launches on the 1st of December.
1st of December and then runs all the way through December.
Yeah.
So, you've got that option if you really wanted the design. So isn't it cute? I'll hold it a bit closer. Look how sweet they are. Oh, they all swing. So I'm really pleased to have these finished. And I'm just going to leave these on this until Christmas, and then I'll use this as an Advent calendar at Christmas. And then I can just take them all off and store them away with the decorations and then bring them out every year.
Cool.
Or you could string them on your mantle if you've got a mantle.
Yeah.
That's really cute. Yay, all done.
Well, I think after looking at those lovely socks, there's only one thing that we can do, and that is get out to finish, because my socks were extremely wet by this point. And seeing those dry socks makes me very jealous. It was, at one point, it was like squelchy. It was unbelievable.
You didn't wear your waterproof shoes?
No, I was stupid. I thought about it, and then I didn't. Idiot. But look, enough waffle. Let's get back to Wensleydale and finish off our amazing walk.
to walking the Dales. This is Oxclose Road. About 1,000 years ago, this would have been really busy, like a proper busy highway of people moving cattle, often from as far away from Scotland. Now, it's not the first time I've walked on what's known as an old drover's road, and inevitably they are stunning, because whilst it doesn't feel like it right here, we're up really quite high, so the views all around us are absolutely stunning. There's little doubt that this route has been in use for thousands of years, because we're walking into a landscape that would get Tony Robinson and the Time team extremely excited. And the first of the wonderful things to see on this amazing road lies just up here. Where there are burials, there's usually human activity. And that's exactly what we're walking past now. There's all over this landscape are ripples of activity from the Bronze Age and beyond, from field systems, culminating in an actual settlement, a village settlement, which we'll see later on in our walk. But right now, we're walking into the remains of an old mine, which started life in medieval times. And whilst when you compare that to the Bronze Age, it doesn't sound very long ago at all, it's still 1,000 years ago. That's when this mine that we're walking into now started life. And the great thing about this mine was it was in use for 900 years, which I think is absolutely amazing. And what it's left behind is a landscape that looks like something from an alien planet from Star Wars. It's amazing. As I'm sure you could probably guess, lead mining is a big and dirty business, and it leaves a very specific mark on the landscape. But in the words of Ian Malcolm, life finds a way. And it turns out that soil with a high metallic content is absolutely perfect for the growth of a very specific type of grass. Now, this is actually, because of that, a site of special scientific interest, because this particular type of grass has made a very successful home here, the remains of Wet Groove's lead mine. It's wonderful to see, isn't it? A once barren landscape now absolutely teeming with life. And speaking of scars, the one that's included in this site of special scientific conservation, it couldn't be more prominent. It's been looking down on us all day as we've climbed this northern bank of Wensleydale. There's one more archaeological site to see, just adjacent to Oxclose Road. It's just in the hillside up there. It's just full of lumps and bumps, and you can see potential roundhouses and all sorts. And this is potentially the place where the people who use the funeral cairn lived. Now, there isn't really very much there, but I mean, it is fascinating to see it in the landscape. And who knows, with a different perspective, we might get a slightly better view. So folks, we're now finally winding our way back down the dale, and we're coming up on the final settlement of today's walk. It's the gorgeous Yorkshire hamlet of Woodhall. Now the great thing is about walking in the Yorkshire Dales is it's very rare that you have to walk on a road for very long. There's normally cute little pathways that appear, and I think I might have just spotted it. It's like stepping back in time 50 years. What a gorgeous place. Now, I looked in the history books for references to Woodhall, and there wasn't very many at all. I did find one though, one that I really did find interesting. In 1539, Christopher Metcalfe lived at the nearby Napa Hall, and he's listed as the forester and the parker for this part of the world. Now what that means is the forester is the person in charge of looking after all the forests, and round here back then that must have been quite the job. But the parker, I didn't know that was a job title. I'll tell you what it means. A parker is a park keeper. So if your surname is Parker, there's a good chance that you're related to someone, well, one of your ancestors anyway, who used to look after parkland. It's fascinating, isn't it? Folks, can you believe it? We finished another wonderful walk in the Dales, but my goodness, it's been fun. As I've said already on today's walk, as Yorkshire Dales go, Wensleydale has always been one of my absolute favourites of all the Dales. And do you know what? After today, I love it even more than I did. Uncovering the story of Rabbit Warren and rabbits, and finding out that they weren't even indigenous to this country. I always thought they were. No idea that they were introduced for their fur and their food. And really quite recently too, when you think about it. But then also getting up onto Oxclose Road and discovering some of the archaeological secrets up there. It's really made me appreciate this part of the world even more than I already did. And the best part of all is, next time that we come here, we won't be heading to Aysgarth Falls or to Castle Bolton, the places which we've been to many, many times before. We'll be getting out further into this wonderful countryside and discovering more of the secrets that are waiting for us up there. I can't wait. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time when we'll once again be walking the moors.
What a wonderful walk. Oh my goodness.
Indeed.
That Calmanarian grassland, if ever anything looks just like your Prairie Socks, it's that. I've never experienced anything quite like it. Coming up like dirty farm roads with smelly sheep and lots of cows. And then suddenly, as you climbed higher, they all disappeared. And then you're there onto what felt like a prairie, something that you would expect to find low down or not in hills, because you just don't expect to see that amount of flat land. It was very weird.
Yeah.
It felt like being in a different world. Do you know what it felt like? A bit, heavenly's the wrong word, like, you know how the Vikings, like, I'm not really sure what their Valhalla. It felt like walking into Valhalla. It's just so unbelievable. And I think as well, it was with having that the ivy scar, the limestone scar above you as well.
It felt sort of a little bit prehistoric, I thought. It reminded me of the landscape that Ayla would wander through.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It'd have been just amazing.
Yeah. And especially, I thought that lead mine, it was lead mine, wasn't it?
Wet Grooves lead mine.
Yeah. I mean, it's strange that, because I don't know how they mine lead, and it sort of scarred the surface of the landscape. You know, when you think of a lead mine, I think of a coal mine, and it's obviously nothing like that.
No. Now, there's no walk next time because Kay is back with another My Favourite Colourway. I cannot wait, because you really raised the bar, I think, with the Wide Open Prairies.
Right. Maybe I'll do something autumnal, because we'll be approaching September by then. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Back to school time.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'll have a little ponder.
And then we'll be back with another lovely walk in the moors, the show after that. And I can't wait, because there's only 2 walks to go.
2 more to go.
And that means, I can't remember if you've got 1 or 2. No, but it's not many.
No.
We're approaching the end of the series.
I know.
What's the plural?
Series. It's just series. It's one of those words where the plural is the same as the singular, isn't
That's
it?
annoying.
There's quite a few words like that, isn't there?
Yeah. I bet you can't think
Although, no, I was trying to think of another one. But I don't think there is a plural. It's series, isn't it? Three series, 1 series. I think it's the same word.
What's the collective term for a rhinoceros? Is it a herd?
No, isn't it something like a...
It's something weird, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, it's something like... It's like some sort of charging word, like...
A stampede?
No, it's not a stampede. I can't remember. But it's not rhinoceroses. Right?
Rhinoceri?
Is it rhinoceri? Or is it just rhinoceros? No, it can't be 5 rhinoceros. That doesn't quite sound right.
5 rhinoceroses?
5 rhinoceroses. 5 rhinoceri. I don't know.
I think it's time for the Endy Bits. So the Jelly Roll Cowl is continuing.
It is. We're in the final month. So the Jelly Roll Knit Along finishes at the end of August. So there is absolutely still time if you haven't cast one on yet. I've got my Jelly Roll here, and there's just some gorgeous examples now within the Ravelry thread if you want to have a look, and also on Instagram. The hashtag is just Jelly Roll Blanket if you wanted to go and have a look. There's loads of people been using that. Just fantastic blankets, and you know, everybody's just really enjoying it. And although it's summer, I know it's summer and people might think, oh, I don't want to knit a blanket in summer. Because of the construction of this, it's actually a great one to start in the summer, because there's not a lot going on, because you join the strips as you go. So your first strip you just knit all the way down, and then you join your next one as you go along. So you could happily have 2, 3, 4 strips on the go, and it wouldn't be that heavy, you know, on your lap. So it's a great time to start one. And if you want to contribute to the Ravelry thread that we've got running for the knit along, and there's a chance you could win some of my hand-dyed yarn that I've been dyeing up over the past few months. There's a few other prizes in there as well. Then just go over to that thread and post photos. You don't have to finish it, of course. Absolutely don't have to finish it. Just post photos of your work in progress and you'll qualify for the prizes. So that finishes at the end of August.
Cool. The Amazonian Warrior Challenge is in full swing. We've just awarded our second quarter of prizes.
Yeah, they've all gone out.
Which is just wonderful. So there was lovely books.
Oh yeah, the remainder of them are here, waiting to be given away.
Which we sign and then they get sent out to the winners. Yeah. And then also there was lovely yarn from Bente.
Yes.
Was it Arctic?
Arctic Crafts.
Yes. Yeah. Well done. So lovely yarn as well. So that is our year-long, it's a knit-along for our patrons, but the run and the walk is open to anybody. So anybody can come and get involved anytime, and all the details are in our Ravelry group. Or you can email us at hello@bakerybears.com and we can tell you how to get involved. But it's a really fun activity and lots of teams and striving to go the length of the Amazon in the space of 1 year. And we're
totally going to do it.
Pretty good.
Yes.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Did you hear our last radio show?
Did you?
That came out last week. We were talking all about holidays.
Right.
Ones that we love. Was it holidays? Yes, it was. Because it was the time before that we were talking about things that we wish we'd done before we were 21. Yes. So it was all about holidays, some of our favourites and also some of our not so favourites. But next time we're talking about, out next week, it's all about the 1980s. Yes.
Things that we miss about the 1980s.
Yes. And that was so cool to sort of really talk about that.
Everything, basically.
Yeah. Everything. From the food to the films to the music to the clothes.
Yeah. We didn't talk about clothes actually so much.
I did mention rah-rah skirts.
Oh, you did mention rah-rah skirts. Yes, bring back the rah-rah.
You can't beat a rah-rah skirt.
Yeah, and the bright neon tights and,
yes. There's loads going on at the moment because we're slap bang in the middle of our knitting university. We finished off the Glimmer Mitts.
Yeah. Loads of people knit the Glimmer Mitts.
Yes, we're into the second course. This is, of course, open to our silver, gold and platinum patrons.
Yeah.
You get a pattern and you get all lectures, they are because they're long, from Kay, teaching you exactly how and why we do all the things that we do to knit all these lovely patterns.
Cozy reading socks are the one that have got a brand new heel in them. Yeah.
Kay's just actually released a very special design diary, which was all about her Moss Eccles socks.
Yeah.
And she's also got, coming up in a few weeks, another really, really special design diary.
Yes.
After something very special happens.
Yes.
But we'll say nothing more about that.
Maybe I'll be able to talk about that next time, actually.
Hope so.
I have got one thing I would want to say, actually, that is quite exciting. I did mention this to our patrons a few weeks ago, and I keep forgetting to mention it. But a few weeks ago, I was approached by Amarisu magazine, and they wanted to translate 2 of my sock patterns into Japanese and put the pattern together with yarn and sell that in their shop, in their online shop, which is Walnut Kyoto, I believe. So of course I was absolutely thrilled and said, yeah, I would love for you to do that. So that's been done, and those kits are actually now available in their online shop, and there are kits for the crunkled socks and the Dunbrook socks. So both of us, so if you happen to be watching and you speak Japanese, or you're in Japan and you would like to purchase...
Or you are Japanese.
Or you are Japanese.
You're like a pattern
and you're in another
Japanese.
country, but you would like the pattern in Japanese, then you can buy the pattern along with yarn in the Walnut Kyoto shop now. So that's really thrilling.
Could not be a more special thing for us generally, because I visited Japan when I was about 18, 19 and loved it, but also I used to do Japanese drumming, which we both loved.
We love it. Yeah, taiko drumming is amazing.
It is. It's amazing fun to do.
I would love to visit Japan, actually.
It's an amazing country.
Yeah, I would love to.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
And we really enjoyed that James May series where he was...
We did, I watch lots of things on Japan, actually. Whenever I see any sort of documentaries or fly on the wall or anything like that, food things, I do watch them whenever I see them, because I just think the culture and the way of life, beautiful.
Folks, that's it.
So thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you on the 27th of August for the next Bakery Bears video show, which will feature, and I'm excited about this, another My Favourite Colourways. The pressure's on.
I know, it is, isn't it?
We'll see you soon.
See you soon, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Sitting and knitting, it's Dan and Kay, the bakery bears. Enthusiasm's not quitting for Dan and Kay, the bakery bears. They'll take you to fabulous places of which their favorites they'll share. You better buy a pattern and get yourself a bakery bear. You'll find yourself in a castle while watching the bakery bears. It never feels like a hassle to sit and watch the bakery bears. What's on your shelf or